A man getting bit by an alligator and he screams.
Okay, quiet. Hey, quiet.
Stood out towards me.
Ow! No, not an owl. A real scream of pain.
Now it's driving while screaming time.
All of the bars are doing the things that bars need to do.
Oh, I thought you, for a minute, I thought you meant like, drinking establishments.
That too. But the bars on your phone, the bars in the city, right? Whatever.
The bars that are monitoring
Right.
our voices. Nobody needs to.
I feel like we need like a specific driving while screaming theme song.
We do, don't we? I can get out this way, can't I?
Yeah, you can. Just follow this guy right here. I think it's the mid road that goes out to the road.
Yeah. Cool.
So we did it. Did it. This was a day of interviews more than it was movies this day.
This is day 5?
Day 5 of DIFF. DIFF 5.
DIFF 5 films.
To Dallas? I don't know. Like, what was the 5th Fast and the Furious? Just Furious 5?
It was Fast 5.
It was Fast 5.
Right?
Yes. And Furious 6.
Yeah.
There we go.
I mean, Fast 5 was the best one of the bunch.
Right.
Because it was Brazil. But it really was, actually.
This is Brazil.
Think about it. It's kind of the only one I like. I mean, well, like, unironically.
Wait a minute. Wait, no, Adam. We can't do this right now.
Oh, sorry.
We can't.
All right.
We can't get into Fast and the Furious talk on DIFF 5. We gotta do podcast DIFF.
DIFF 5.
We gotta do DIFF cast.
DIFF
pods.
recap. Okay,
right.
so tell the people who we talked to today.
Oh,
we'll go through them like all together.
So we're talking about 3 films today. DIY: The Rise and Fall of Punk. We're talking about Party People.
Yep.
And we are talking Eastern Western. 3 films, wildly different films. So the first group was Rollo and Joel, the filmmaker and producer, and like this is kind of a filmmaking duo that come from different backgrounds, then set out to make this kind of documentary. And it is this 50-ish minute documentary.
Yeah.
With just kind of talking with people who in the punk scene and and punk adjacent, punk aficionados.
Like Will Wheaton.
I
meant to ask them about Will Wheaton.
Right.
Because it's just kind of weird.
Well, I think he came on because I think they talked to that other guy and I can never remember his name. John something, who's also in Big Bang Theory. And I'm sure he was like, hey, you want to talk to this guy? Like, I'm sure he was the first guy that they talked to. Yeah, you're going to want to turn left.
Turn left, right? Yeah. Okay.
They were the first guys talked to, and like, yeah, you should talk to Fred Armisen, you should talk to Will Wheaton, and like, because of the actor crew.
John Ross Bowles?
Something like that. Yes. Yeah, I actually like him. Big Bang Theory notwithstanding.
Right.
But it's not his fault. I mean, but I thought this was a really like interesting kind of breezy documentary.
Yeah.
I think this is a documentary that I don't know. I'm not sure you're going to walk away like with any genuine like I hate to say insight, but I don't think you're going to walk away with like a new appreciation for punk. But I do think you're going to get I do think you're going to hear some interesting stories from some interesting people, and I think the way that this flows so well that it's just a really kind of like enjoyable 50 minutes to kind of sit there. And like I said on the interview, it's one of those ones I probably could have listened to this for another hour easily, and just to hearing these stories. Now I know they've got to put together a narrative and like, yeah, go ahead. And so you're going to want to go 35 here in just a second when you can. And you'll see it. It's going to be up here. But you're going to want to get over to the left. But I will say, watching this, and as easy as it was to watch, I don't know. I think you don't want to get on the expressway.
Oh shit.
Yeah, stay here.
Yeah.
And didn't
No, I don't want to pay for that.
Right. Yeah, we don't, and there's no need for that. This will get us back on 635. It's fine.
Do you think people are like they tune in to just
Listen to us
see
navigate
how we're
Dallas?
gonna are they gonna get a crash tonight?
They missed that turn again? God.
No
man.
shit, right? Does Brock not know how to get home yet? What the fuck?
To be fair, we're taking a different route tonight,
Yeah.
so watch out for this too.
I know.
But yes, there's got to be like, Jesus Christ, just trying the Witsky way, man.
Just what is wrong with you guys?
How hard is this shit? Fucking morons. You lived in Dallas and Fort Worth for how long?
Hey.
So yeah, all the way over to the
Yeah.
But I think what they set out to do is intensely difficult, right? To do an interview and to think you're going one way with the documentary, and then trying to find a narrative thread with all of this great material that you probably have at your fingertips.
Right.
So I appreciate, even though maybe like from my perspective, I'm not sure I fully got the narrative thread. I enjoyed the shit out of this.
Yeah.
I just don't know if I took anything really away from it as far as a new appreciation, or like if I truly felt the narrative thread stick the landing per se.
Right. Well, do you think though that you are the target audience?
No,
Okay,
absolutely
and
not.
Right,
Absolutely
right,
not.
Right.
No.
And because I'm with you, really. I think for the most part. I mean, I think to me this was a film kind of examining or trying to examine the ethos of punk rock, right? Of trying to talk about, not the negative aspects of it that get, I think, associated or like stereotyped, and to bringing in like as many voices as they can to kind of talk about, yes, the DIY aesthetic, but also the inclusivity, the sort of love, the humor, all of those things, and the politics, all of those things are there, rather than, like, here's something new you haven't heard, right? Here's something, because I think we are the audience to sit down and watch this and go, yeah, cool. Like, yeah, that was awesome. That was fun, right? It was great seeing some of those people talk about some of this stuff, but right.
Well, and I think the difficulty of like filming this over 2.5 years, right? And I can understand as a filmmaker and as a documentarian specifically, you would not want to force your narrative on to the people that you're interviewing, right?
Right.
And even if you did, like, let's say, here's the thing that I want to talk about. Can you speak to that? Well, I think you get disingenuous, conversations.
Yeah.
And not to a negative extent. Like, not that people are lying to you, but you're forcing them into a lane which they may not want to take, right?
Right.
And so you're going to want to take Northwest Highway. So yeah, take any of those 436, A or B. And I always fuck this part up, but but we'll get there. So I will say this. I mean, like,
but I'm good here.
Yeah, you're good here. I think this is. I do think that, like, had I been their age, I think this would have really been.
This was
fuck. I don't know. Maybe I fucked it up.
We'll figure it out.
Right.
That was 12 South.
Right. I think we wanted to go Irving. Yeah, we want to go 12 South. Yeah, this is where we want to be.
Okay.
I think. I don't know. We'll figure it out. Yeah, this is where we want to be. Because you're going to get on 12 South here in a second. So,
Okay.
But I think, so had I been, 6 or 7 years younger, and I had grown up with the Warped Tour, that I think this really would have resonated with me, and I would have really, really enjoyed this more. And I think that's okay. Right. I mean, like you said, it's not necessarily for me. Because the people that I want to hear from probably aren't around. Like, Mojo Nixon's not around anymore, right? I mean, like, I don't know from the Dead Kennedys or Dead Milkmen, but like, I know those weren't guys that, like, I'm sure they had respect for them, like the filmmakers, but those weren't the guys that they grew up with, right? That Warped Tour, by the time the Warped Tour comes around, I'm listening to that music, a lot because of. A lot because of Green Day, and a lot because of High Fidelity, and and their kind of love for punk too, and the bands that they introduced. But the Warped Tour wasn't for me, right? It wasn't like, I wasn't a skateboard kid. I wasn't like, I just didn't. That was I was past that. I would have been a fucking old man at those concerts, and it would have been even at like age 22 or 23, right?
No, you're right, because that was a different, and also that was like a different iteration of, I think, like the punk that
right
that we probably heard, or that.
And let me say this about it. One thing I couldn't get into in the conversation, but like, by the time that, like, for me as a kind of, because that was my prime like music listening time, and really because we're digging into it, but the commercialization of punk at that point had become so big that I think it diluted a lot of what I would have really loved to have taken away from punk.
Right.
So like, I have no problem with Green Day. I have no problem with Blink-182. I have no, like, but here's the thing. I'm going to name bands that people aren't going to think are punk, right? And I think that, like, getting thrown in with, like, Sum 41, and then you go over to, like, things like fucking Sublime, and, like, I know those aren't necessarily, like...
Am I going 183?
Yes, you're going to keep going here. Yeah, you're good. You're good right here, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yes, follow this sign. Correct.
Okay.
This
way.
Yeah, this sign, yes.
That's what
It's very confusing. That wasn't my fault. That was,
No.
That was a big
that
sign
was like,
for a little
and
exit.
also, like, it's a big lane with no lines.
With no markings.
So you just kind of drive where you want.
Get your shit together, Irving. Come on, man.
Yeah.
All right. So, your thoughts on
Yeah, I think it's a good watch. I think it's entertaining. I think it's well put together. And I wanted to go back to the idea of forcing a narrative on something, on people, or on something where these guys did a ton of interviews, and I think, to their credit, let the kind of narrative find them. Right. Rather than trying to really, like, force something that wasn't there. So I really appreciated that. But I mean, yeah, again, I think that it's entertaining, it's interesting. I don't think it's going to tell a certain audience anything new about punk, but I think it will introduce punk to other audiences.
Yeah, agreed.
Right?
Yeah. And I think with the resurgence of the Warped Tour, and I think there's I think it's perfect timing for this, and I think not every documentary has to be some sort of like revelation, or revelatory experience, right?
Right. Well, I think
sometimes it can just be a matter of good stories being told.
Yeah, and I was going to say, like, I think that there are kind of two models for, let's say, a punk documentary. One is instrument, like the Fugazi documentary,
right? And
then one is this model of like talking to people and letting that narrative kind of come out, right? Yeah. I mean, through the editing, but also like through going through the process.
Right, and it's well produced, it's well put together, it's well shot. So I think the story is that, like, each individual story is interesting, right? I mean, yeah.
And I mean, I think they all have, and I think that is probably, like, the best thing about the documentary is the different types of stories that we get, and how I think they can be surprising. Because I think if you come into a documentary about punk, you're probably thinking about all the kind of, like,
right. Well,
all the kind of bullshit that people throw out as to why punk is bad.
Right. So check it out. I mean, keep your eyes out for it, and especially if you're, coming up in that age of the Warped Tour. I think this is something that's going to really resonate with you.
Yeah.
Our second film is a film out of Austin by a pair of married filmmakers.
A pair of married filmmakers, or married filmmakers?
A pair. No, like,
so it's not like
married. They're married. They're a pair of married. Very happy.
They are very happy, right?
Filmmakers.
So, but there's not like
there's not
people.
Four of them. No,
okay.
This is not like Bob, Carol, Ted, and Alice. This is or the Four
It's
Seasons.
not a quintuple,
right? It's not. Yes, it's not one of those. It's a quadruple, right? It wouldn't
quadruple?
Be
quintuple's five.
5 people, right? Yeah.
Well, you know what?
It's day 5.
I don't know math.
Right.
I don't know math. This isn't a math podcast.
So this movie is a night in the life.
You didn't give the name of it.
I did. I thought it was Party People. So the second movie is Party People.
Even if you did, I'm going to go back and cut out that you said it.
Right. And this is just a movie about. It's a like I said, it's a night in the life movie about a bunch of teenage kids or college kids, not all teenagers, but like these new freshmen that are at a, their first time away from home, and they're all about to they're all trying to go to their first big party, and it is born out of all of these great movies that we had in the late 90s, like Can't Hardly Wait and Dazed and Confused and Suburbia, 200 Cigarettes, Go, and I think it is as good, if not better, than all of those.
Yeah,
and I'm going to put Dazed and Confused and Suburbia on the table. Like I think this film is so much fun. It is so earnest and heartfelt. It never takes a misstep. It never belies its intent. That like it's always like it's so good. And it like I said, it's wildly ambitious and so crazy that they were able to pull this off as their first film.
Yeah. It's so smart too.
Right.
I mean, it really, I feel like knows what it is and knows what it wants to be, and yet doesn't miss a beat, right? Doesn't take a misstep. And I think the structure, again, the structure is perfect, right? The way form and content play together, I think it all comes together so well. This like walking, talking, and meandering kind of film that, of course, is exactly what they're doing.
Right. Yeah. Every cast member, now some are better than others.
Sure.
But every cast member is perfect. Like it never falls into caricature. It never goes too far with its humor. It never goes too far, with its pathos. It does all of that so well. It is so much goddamn fun. It's impossible to watch this without a smile on your face.
And it doesn't do the obvious thing.
Right.
That's what I really appreciate. It doesn't do the obvious thing that we all.
There are no tropes in this.
Right.
I mean, like even though you're playing with,
you have the nerdy kid who's a roommate with sort of like the athletic kid, right?
Right.
But they subvert those.
Yeah.
We'll give you the stereotype, but it's not going to be what you think it is.
They subvert
every time. They
subvert the stoner kids. They subvert the introverted kind of pseudo goth kids. Oh, that's not really what that vignette's about.
Right.
But I mean, close enough so I don't have to think of something else to think of another thing to say. But,
it's day 5 minutes.
Right. They subvert the puck character, the knowing elder character, the kind of older generation of characters, and the kind of the love story that would exist in this movie. This is a movie that I think if someone can give it a chance to distribute this, I think this is one of those ones that we will all be talking about. This feels,
it'll become one that's on repeat.
Right. This feels like Bottle Rocket. This feels like Kicking and Screaming. I know that not everyone loves Kicking and Screaming, but this feels like this feels like Swingers. This feels like a moment that can really truly define a set of filmmakers. Right. And I think, man, I'm really I'm so glad that we were able to talk to them, and also I was so glad that this film came across in DIFF at this point.
I know. Right. I mean, when was? I mean, I saw Dazed and Confused in high school, right? It came out when we were in high school, and it became that movie that you just put on with your buddies, right, or with your friends. You'd be hanging out. There'd be 8 of you, right? Guys and girls, and you just throw it on and hang out, right? I mean, and yes, you'd get stoned or whatever, but and I think this is a movie like that.
Yeah.
Where you're just, hey, let's just throw this on, and it's just going to be there.
And as much as I like Can't Hardly Wait, because I think it does everything it does well, but it's not slick like that either, though, right?
Right.
And Can't Hardly Wait the Can't Hardly Wait obviously is a bigger budget movie, but then takes up its affectations to kind of an nth level in when it all these characters are stereotypes. And this one, I think you can find yourself in every single one of these vignettes.
Absolutely, yeah.
One of the things I think would be interesting with this movie is to see how it plays as an anthology film. If you were to take all of the pieces and put them back together, and to see how that kind of night plays out. I don't think it works quite as well, but I would love to kind of see it like that,
right?
Just to see how it plays, because I think there's a story to be told there too.
Sure.
Right? Especially if you had that puck character kind of be almost a narrator to a certain extent.
Yeah.
But you know, in the same breath of like these other films where we follow characters and then we bounce to another set of characters and we bounce to another set of characters. Like I think we're excited each time the scene changes, right? You're excited to get back to these other groups to see how they're progressing or not progressing, or
right.
And yeah, there's just some real. I mean, and I think, you know, with any ensemble comedy like this, there are certain ones that stand out more. But I think everyone who comes to this film is going to find a different favorite character, right? I think I think Harris is going to be probably the big one for a lot of folks, but. I don't know. I really, really love this movie.
I know it's great. I think all of the vignettes are really well timed. I think that they all have kind of their own self-contained story structure, and I think the editing is great. Right. I think the kind of back and forth, right, when they cut, when they move to another vignette is really well done. So yeah. I absolutely adore this film.
And it's weird, like how and not weird necessarily, but I mean, like it's impressive how they were able to make every moment feel like these are conversations that you could have had with your friends, but not also then make them so comedic or so punchy that it takes you out of it. Like that, I mean, like, because there's a lot of those moments in different movies where they may be memorable lines, but your connection is lost because you're not that funny, or you're not that empathetic, or you're not, or you're not that hot, or you're not, you didn't have, I don't know. There's this moment, like,
I think I look fine. Thanks, though.
I meant more, metaphorically speaking, not exact.
Yeah. I understood.
So, yeah, we will definitely keep our fingers on the pulse of Party People. Yeah. And we will do our best to, if you needed us to help you find this film, which I don't think you will. No. But we are happy to shout this one from the rooftops. This and Cafe Cherelle, I think Happy as Larry will be fine. I don't think that will need our help at all. Not that I think Party People or Cafe Cherelle will either.
Right.
But those are the ones I'm going to want to pull out of my back pocket if people don't know about them. I definitely want people.
Because you're saying you think people will know about Happy as Larry.
I do think Happy as Larry. Of all the things that I've seen.
No, I do too.
I think that's the one that makes, like, if I'm buying films out of DIFF, I'm buying Happy as Larry first, right? Yeah. I love Party People and I love Cafe Cherelle. I would buy those like 1A and 1B. But I think Happy as Larry has the biggest audience out of both of those.
Yeah. Yeah. So I agree. Good story.
Yeah. So our last film of the day was Eastern Western, which on paper I was not really excited about watching. Like, it seemed like, I think the poster makes it seem like it's like very low budget. Like, it just felt like, all right, this. Yeah, I wanted something else, but you know how if the poster's not that slick, it makes it look like it's a kind of a smaller production.
Yeah.
I am not the biggest Western fan. I didn't really love The Dead Don't Die. The very confusingly titled The Dead Don't Die, and from last year's DIFF with Viggo Mortensen.
So, is it because they're already dead they don't die?
Yeah, maybe so.
Is that
the dead are already dead,
or they don't come back to life, so they die? They don't die again.
The dead have died already. They don't need to die again, which is a longer title. I understand why you don't use that.
Right. The dead are already dead, so they can't.
The died have deaded, and that's done.
The died have been dead.
Anyway, so I was not all that excited about watching a Western, but I do think we want to give these films equal. Just a chance, if nothing else, right?
We wanted to watch everything we possibly could.
Right.
And, give everything a shot.
And so this is made by two sister filmmakers, and we met them, obviously, today. And this is an immigrant story, set in the 1880s.
Yeah.
And then kind of taking us through World War I. And it's broken up into three different acts, and it's it's a really these sister filmmakers are Marina and Biliana, and so they come from a documentary background, and I feel like this. What's crazy to me was I was watching this, and I didn't really bring this up when we talked to them, but like this felt like, obviously that there couldn't have been a film documentary in the 1890s, but it did feel like we were watching that a lot of times. I thought this was a really beautiful, like moving, like it's a really gorgeous film. I think it has a lot to say about the immigrant story. I think there's a lot of emotional beats, and I think this gets better probably the more times you watch it.
I think so too.
Because I think at first it's a little difficult because they use non-actors in these roles. And I think upon first watch that stands out, at least to me.
Sure.
And so, but I think as you go through the film and the emotional tones start to grow, I think you lose a lot of that, right?
Yes.
And so like the somewhat stilted delivery of these folks is lessened because one, it does feel like you're watching a documentary. I mean, there's such painstaking detail in this film, which we really didn't talk about in the conversation either. But because I didn't really want to like focus on too much of like the technicality of period specific flour mills and things like that. There was more to the story than just how did you make this thing that looks like an old thing, because that's not an interesting story. I mean, it is, but it's not like that's we have a limited time. That's not the questions we want to ask.
So you used a camera, right? No, but wait. I want to ask you a question.
Yeah.
So do you think that like the non-actor stuff became less maybe obvious, or it didn't like kind of bug you as much because you got on the kind of rhythm of the film or kind of the vibe of the film?
Yeah, I would never say that it didn't bug me, but I do think it kind of. I never said. I don't think it would bug me because I think everyone. Well, here's the thing. I think everyone that is in this film is interesting, right?
Yeah, and bug is the wrong. What I mean.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So I think it might have that dialogue kind of took me out of it a little bit because it feels like it felt at first that they're talking to say something very specific, right? It doesn't like none of it felt naturalistic.
Right.
In and of the moment. But I do think that like once we get to the vibe of the film, that you forget all about that.
Right.
I think especially as you get through the middle of Act 2 and you get to the gunfight, I mean, all of that's out the window, right? I mean, like,
yes.
And I do think it really kind of starts off beautifully as well, because I think Igor and Devon are like really good, or Devon are really. I hope I'm saying his name right. Who's the guy who's the horseman?
Duncan.
Thank you. I don't know why I got Devon. Again,
day 5.
Well, day 5.
Igor's son is named Ivo, so maybe there was
so. I don't know.
You got Ivo and Duncan, and you got.
We've seen a lot of movies.
Yeah.
And there's been a lot of character names. And here's the thing. I want to say this, and all apologies to if I've upset any of the filmmakers we've talked about. But I've been having to keep actors and filmmakers and character names in my head all week long, and I've done a terrible job at it.
It's tough.
I can't do it when I'm just talking about regular movies. It's just tough. The podcast, right?
Yeah.
And so I'm going to talk about themes, and if I get specifics wrong, that's the beauty of this podcast, right?
Yeah. Well, no, you're right. It is. It's.
But I think Duncan and Igor are really compelling.
Yeah.
And I think that that when the opening sequences with Igor and his son, as much as they say that they only had the young kid for like 30-40 minutes a day, I think the interactions between those two, and I think I think were really, really, really good. I mean, it's just like I totally bought that these two were father, son, and that he was struggling with this.
Yeah.
I do think Igor is the best. If I'm just judging based on acting ability, I think he's the best actor.
Yeah.
By far. But I
Where
think.
am I going? Am I taking?
Yeah, you're taking 20 south.
South.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Then I know. Okay.
But out of all of this, and like again, we talked about how this is Malick-esque, right?
Right.
I don't want to go to the point where this is, a thin red line or something along those lines, or Days of Heaven. But I do think that this evokes a kind of poetry.
Yes.
It evokes, this like I said, this visual. I think the visuals are amazing, and I do think that, like, we mentioned this a little bit, but like, had this been a silent film, where you still have the story, but you don't hear what these people are saying, I think all of that would have come across now maybe some of the themes that they wanted to get across wouldn't have. Maybe the journey of, some of the things that they said were pretty key to the continuation of the themes that they wanted to convey.
Yeah, I think there were a couple like spoken moments that were really important. I think maybe those moments would have been harder to convey through just kind of action. But other than that, I think that you could have gotten away with it, and it would have been really, really interesting and beautiful.
But there are long stretches of this film where we're just watching people do things. And like I said, we talked a little bit about Meek's Cutoff. Now, Meek's Cutoff definitely is more talky than this, but it kind of evokes those same type of feelings that I do feel like at no point did I think, aside from the camera being there, I was totally on board with the timing and the time frame. And I do think that also some of the things that they were able to pull off with this low budget were really, really spectacular. I think that there's a sequence in the movie where Igor is like fox hunting and comes upon a bear, and has to get away from the bear, but it's never like in an action-packed sequence, but it is very, very tense. And I think one of the things that the filmmakers talked about not wanting to make not intending to make a politically charged movie, but I do think this idea of the struggle of the immigrant and the desire to be here and to make a better life for themselves. I think it's a story that obviously needs to be fucking told over and over and over again. And we should never forget this. And we also should never forget that all of these people, they do a good job of obviously introducing an indigenous character here as well, and how there should be hatred, but they do end up working together. Let's put it this way. I'm not the hugest fan of Westerns, but this is the type of Western that I would watch way more often than I would watch something, that's more of a traditional Yellowstone, Landman, whatever type of... I know those aren't necessarily Westerns, but I fall into that same genre.
I think that a lot of people would consider those Westerns, right? Or like neo-Western.
Right.
Or, I don't know. I don't mind Westerns as much as you do, but I grew up on Westerns.
Right, but I also grew up on that was all that was on for and it was always the same. It was always the same movie. It was always that
High Noon.
but
Hang 'em High.
But no, not even the good ones. More like these B-roll movies that are westerns that played all the time on, not even like Turner or TBS. It was always just like local access, right? It was Cisco Kid type shit.
Yeah.
So it was always, they had to fight the indigenous and and there was a big long, I don't know, it just, for whatever reason, I was turned off to those types of bonanza and type.
What about F Troop?
Yeah, F Troop was no. No.
How could you not like F Troop?
I don't know. I watched. If I was watching something like that, I was watching Baba Black Sheep, or there were these other I was watching more military or cop shows than I was.
Gotcha.
I may not have ever seen F Troop much. I don't think that but I also then associated things like Hee Haw with the Western. I don't know. It just felt like I was so engulfed in that type of mentality. I think it was just more of a natural rebellion against what was seen as enjoyable or cool by my elders and some whatever. Not cool ever, but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
It was the the entertainment du jour that was easy, and then although I can't remember really watching a ton of Hee Haw either, but
no, Hee Haw was fucking stupid.
It really
I
is bizarre to
hated
me
Hee Haw.
that show stayed on as long. I don't even know really how long it stayed on, but it's really crazy that was ever a thing. But then again, we got Blue Collar Comedy Tour, and like there's, and so it's not like that's not a fucking thing, right? I mean,
Did Mama's Family come from Hee Haw?
No.
Okay.
Mama's Family came from Carol Burnett show.
That's right.
And it was way funnier on the Carol Burnett show than it ever was on.
I don't know why I thought that was okay.
And Mama's Family was pretty bad too.
Yeah, it was awful.
But the Carol Burnett show, I'm not ever going to say a bad word about that. That was fucking brilliant. And Mama on the Carol Burnett show, all of those sketches were really funny. It just was too much for like 11 seasons on a sitcom.
It ran forever. Anyway, back to this movie real fast. No. I think that there are some really, really great moments. I mean, I enjoyed this film a lot, right? I like the lyricism in it. I like the poetics in the film.
Well, I like their attention to detail. Not to step on you.
But
absolutely. I think this film is so rewarding if you are willing to dig into a little bit more beyond the surface of what you're being presented with these characters. Now, I don't mean what I mean by that is that this is based in historical fact. These are based on, not necessarily these people, but what was going on at the time.
Right.
And it is a wildly interesting story that this film doesn't like preach to you, but is available to you if you're willing to kind of go a little bit further.
Go with it. And like if you know a little bit about the history and where Igor comes from, that's another layer to the film as well, because then that really leads fully into that final metaphor with the horse and the horse being freed. I don't really want to spoil that. I know it's not like a spoiler, but I don't want to say too much more about that, because it's really, I found that last image really, I think really, really powerful.
I think the epilogue of this, I think what I'm so impressed by, especially and again, we talked about a documentary earlier, right? And I have not had the chance to watch any of their other films. But
I watched the Kamikazes.
Did you?
Heavy Metal. Yeah, it's good.
So I want to check it out. Their movement into narrative here, and to be able to tell this 3-act story with an epilogue, I think it's really impressive the way that this story builds upon itself. The way that as the story goes along, it reinforces those themes, introduces new ones, makes kind of this human experience cyclical, this desire to go home, this desire to return, to wander, to wonder,
a peaceful home.
Right. But to wonder as our loved ones leave, what what may await them. There's just as much as I feel kind of asshole-ish talking about non-actors in these roles, I do think that some of them, like I said, by the time you get to the end of this, all of that's wiped away from me.
Right.
And I think almost it really does. I think the way that they talked about it, they're all actors now. I think that and I think there's so much going on, and I think, like I said, that of all the films we watched today, the amount of money that these folks spend on these films.
Yeah, these are low budget.
This is right, but none of them look it though.
Exactly.
Right, none of them feel like, oh, this is a cheap film, or this is not like the 90s shot on video era. These are talented people that know how to stretch
a budget,
$10 out of every dollar that they have, and it's really, really impressive what they've got accomplished. Aside from the storytelling, and aside from just the overall how we felt about the movie, I think one of the things I'm always worried about going into these festivals, especially the smaller festivals, and then not to diminish DIFF, but let's be honest, we're not putting it up with Telluride or.
Oh, but you haven't been
DIFF.
to Telluride.
I have not been to either one of those. Right? I've not been to Toronto. A lot of those I can't afford to go to, so
I
know. Because they're far away. DIFF is here.
So if you're listening and you want to foot the bill for our our flights,
you've seen what we can do. Are you heard?
Don't be afraid to support us.
Don't be afraid. And what the fuck was I saying? Oh, the one thing I'm kind of always worried about with these smaller film festivals. And to be fair, like DIFF and Oak Cliff, they have their shit together. Their selection committees is on point.
Yeah.
But I will say again, like we did see some films that last year at DIFF that felt amateurish is not the right word, but they felt like low budget productions.
Right.
I don't think I've seen anything this time out that really feels like a low budget production, even though they are.
Right.
And I think that speaks volumes to where I think the evolution. Maybe, and I'm sure there'll be good years, there'll be bad years, right? There's not. I mean, like, but this is most definitely one of the better film festivals I can remember.
Yeah, this is. I think this has been a really good year, and even though it's been, I think, quite different than last year as well, and I think there were some really good films last year too.
Yeah, agreed.
But this feels, no, you're right. This feels different. I kind of feel like this feels like a step up, right? A level up from last year.
Yeah.
Is that okay?
Yeah. So that was day 5, and we will not be there tomorrow. We have a Fort Worth Film Club screening of Secrets and Lies, as we said yesterday. So unfortunately, we won't be there. We have one more film to watch, and we have one more interview to do, unless something changes. But
what were we gonna say? Like something miraculous?
Yeah, that's something miraculously changes, and
everybody's lining up to talk to us.
A shit ton of people get back to us. But I figured Thursday's going to be a quiet day because everyone's going to be wrapping up and kind of saying their goodbyes, and we're going to send DIFF off into the distance, the DIFF stance.
The DIFF stance.
And bid adieu to yet another year at DIFF.
And we can ask again, like, DIFF films? Do films DIFF?
DIFF do films.
This is the question.
DIFF films do.
If DIFFs did.
No one knows what the fuck we're talking about.
So that seems like a good place to leave it. All right, we will talk to you all, in a couple days.
Yeah.
So, until then.
Keep screaming.
You have been listening to Why Does the Wilhelm Scream with your hosts, Brock and Jason. If you liked today's episode, do us a favor and rate, review, and subscribe in whatever application you use to consume podcasts these days. You can reach us by visiting whydoesthewilhelmscream.com. If you are in the DFW area, we would love to see you at a Fort Worth Film Club event. You can learn more about those and find a full schedule at fortworthfilmclub.com. And you can learn about my foundation and how we are trying to foster the next generation of film lovers at realhousefoundation.org. That's REEL housefoundation.org. Till next time,